Hey folks, I'm Melhorn. One of the questions I see online a lot and in some of the messages that you guys send to me is, what kind of fishing reel should I get? Well, obviously that varies a lot depending on where and how you're fishing. But what I'm going to do is today, I'm going to go over the 3 basic fishing reels that you're going to encounter when you go to a tackle store and kind of tell you the good points and the bad points about each of them and some things that you need to keep in mind. We're going to start out with this one right here, which is a Spincasting reel. If you grew up in a single wide trailer broke as dirt like I did as a kid, this was probably your first fishing reel that you got to use. They're very affordable. That's probably the biggest selling point with these reels is they don't cost a lot of money. Now this one, a Zebco 33 Max, is a lot fancier than it was when I was a kid. These things back then were made out of plastic. While it was a real durable, tough plastic that they made back then, compared to what they are now, they're a lot nicer. It's a lot nicer design. And for what they are, they're good as an introductory fishing reel. And I don't mean just introductory for a kid, but this is for anybody of any fishing ability or any age. It's a good reel to get started out with because it is simple to use. Basically, you push this button, hold it in while you cast, and let go of it when your rod gets in the direction you want to release the line. Pretty simple. Knock it into gear and you're set to fish. This one comes with an adjustable drag up on the top, and you can adjust the drag. You're not going to get as much drag as you're going to get with some of the other reels, but it's enough to you know, keep you from breaking fish off. One of the you know, as I said earlier, the big advantage is the price. Very affordable. And second big advantage is they're easy to use. One of the disadvantages is going to be, well, the line capacity that you have on it. You don't have a lot of line capacity with these reels. Another thing when it comes to the line, the bigger the line you put on here, the harder it's going to be to cast, and it's really designed for a somewhat lighter line, something in that 8 to 12 pound range. So you're not going to be putting some big heavy line on it. So not a lot of upgrade options either as far as adding power handles or some of the other cool sexy stuff that you can add on to them, but overall a very good easy to use reel. And these here have an interchangeable handle, so you can take this handle and put it on the other side. One of the options that you're not going to get with our most expensive reel that we'll get to in a minute, but Spincasting reel, again, if you're starting out looking to get into it relatively inexpensively and something that's easy to use, this is what you want to go with. Now my second choice, as far as moving up the ladder of complexity and cost, is going to be a spinning reel. This one is from Catfish Pro. It's their 600 STS. And by the way, I've got links to these in my description section down below where you can click on them. If you buy any of the Catfish Pro products, use the promo code CATFISH at checkout and you'll get a discount on it. But these are kind of in between the Spincasting and the Baitcasting reels. Again, easy to operate. You basically put your finger across the line, flip what they call the bail over, you cast and you let go of the line. The line goes off, flip it over, and you're ready to fish. Now, it's got a few options on it that you're not going to get with the Spincasters, and one is going to be the amount of drag. The drag is controlled by this knob up on the top of the spool here. You can put a lot of drag. Generally speaking, pound for pound, these have more drag than any of the reels out there, and you adjust it up here, so you're going to have a significant amount of drag. The other thing that's going to be the big benefit on this reel as you start to maybe pursue bigger fish is your line capacity. You can put a lot of line on one of these reels. This one is spooled up with 20-pound line. I have put 30-pound line on some of the other reels that I have. Another good variable here in this one is the extreme size. This is called a 600, which may be a 6,000 class. There's no real well-defined scale on what these numbers mean, but basically a 600, a 60, a 6,000 are all going to be in about this same size. For reference, they start out real small, all the way down to like a 1,000 or a 10 or a 100, and go all the way up. I've got some 8,000 reels that you'll see me use in some of my shark fishing videos, some big Penn Battle 2 reels that are huge, even more line capacity and more drag on them. So those are some basic advantages. Now this one has something here that is called a bait feeder, line feeder, a lot of different names for it, but it's basically a mechanism that will give you the ability to let line feed off of here while you're waiting on a bite. So you got a fish that is known for picking up a bait and running with it. Well, this is a good little setup. Not all the spinning reels have this, by the way, so keep an eye out for that. Basically, once your line's out there, line's not coming off of it. You flip this and line will come off of it by adjusting this knob. It's similar to drag, but a little bit different. There's a knob, you can hear it turning back here on the back that adjusts, and that allows that spool to turn. So if you had a fish that was notorious for running with baits, like maybe flathead catfish, you can adjust that. You give them a chance to take the bait, and then when you're ready, you flip that back over. It engages the spool again, you set the hook, and you're off to fighting fish. So one last cool point with them, like with the spin casting reel, you can flip the handle on the spinning reel. So if you're right-handed, left-handed, or just depending on which side you want this thing on when you're reeling, you've got that option too with these. So a little difference there in that. Now the next one is where we get to kind of the advanced level, and this becomes a very popular reel for a lot of people that are pursuing bigger fish. Probably the single biggest reason is the line capacity. Generally speaking, these things carry more line than these other two reels. They have a good line capacity, whether you're putting on monofilament or braided line. So that's one of the biggest selling points. One of the things about here is this is a level wind. Not all of these round reels, conventional reels, have a level wind. What this mechanism does, if you see that going back and forth, it puts your line back onto the spool evenly. Otherwise, you're running your thumb back and forth. I know that sounds kind of crazy and archaic. Why would somebody do that? But most of the offshore reels for really big fish will not have this, because what will happen is if you get a fish that is totally smoking the line off of here, you will really generate some heat with this thing flying back and forth. That's just something to keep in mind in this class and this size of reel. So these do have clickers, or at least some of them do, and what that does is it gives you that notorious jaw sound when the line starts to come off. The biggest reason for that is it lets you know something is taking your line. They come with a star drag, which is how you apply your drag here on the spinning reel. It was, remember, the knob on the front. You're able to do it here, which can be helpful if you're engaged in a fish. And while I don't always advise new people to do this, you can adjust that drag, tighten it or loosen it very easily while your hand is still here right around where the handle's at. This one, this Catfish Pro reel, has a power handle added. Catfish Pro is selling these handles separately. It comes with a different handle, but this is one of those things I was telling you about. You can upgrade this reel a little bit and make it a little more sexy by adding one of these. You can also change the drag out in these if you really want to get advanced with really stepping them up and customizing them. So those are some of the high points. The downside, the biggest downside to this reel that everybody hates is the casting. While they cast further than any reel out there, these are the type of reels that are used in casting competitions. What happens is it takes some finesse to get the hang of it and keep from having a bunch of line run off, because basically what happens is when you flip the lever to release the spool spins. Nothing stops that spool except for your thumb. So what will happen is you will put your thumb on there to hold the line, you'll rear back, you'll cast, the line will go, and right when that line hits the water, you got to stop the spool. Because what will happen is if you do not, the line will keep coming off of the spool, and you'll have a big old wad of line here that we call a bird's nest, and it can be very frustrating because it's hard to pick apart. It takes a while. Depending on what kind of line you're using, you may have to take the scissors to it to fix it. So that's the single biggest downside. The other downside is, generally speaking, these are a little more expensive than these other reels. There are some that are in a better price range, like these Catfish Pros are. There's some other brands out there that are in the same price range, but you can get into some very expensive ones. Some of the Abu Garcia reels, some of the more famous ones that made these round reels famous. The Abu Garcia 6500s, the Chrome Rockets, they can get into $100, $200, $300 depending on how they've been customized and tuned. So those are your like big differences that come to mind immediately for me. Again, if you're just starting out, go with your spin casting reel. If you just want to take the kids fishing, see if they're into it, see if you're into it, get you one of these. Next, one of the spinning reels. Depending on where you're fishing, you don't need something that's this big. This is a pretty big one. Start out with something maybe in the 2,000 to 4,000 range. Start getting into it, you can upgrade. And then once you're eat up with it, like I am, get you one of these bait casting reels, one of these round reels, and you can move on up the food chain. The good thing is I got links to all this stuff, and I got videos about all of it, but I just wanted to kind of do a video to give you kind of some insight in all of these and how they compare and what the good points and the bad points are. So now it's up to you. Get out there and go fishing.